The cubs refused other medic until she and her cat whispered, "It's gonna sting. We are here." Claire Dawson adjusted the strap of her medpack as the small human ship shuddered while entering the Frontier Station's orbit. The station hung in space like a broken jewel, its metal hull scarred and blackened from recent pirate attacks. Lights flickered across the docking bay as robotic arms clamped onto the ship. Claire's cat, Buddy, sat on her shoulder, tail twitching. The orange furball seemed calm, even as the ship rattled. "You ready, Buddy?" Claire whispered, and the cat blinked slowly, as if answering yes. She swung her legs over the edge of the seat and landed lightly on the metal floor. The air smelled faintly of oil and smoke. Alarms from earlier attacks had stopped, but the tension lingered like a thick fog. As they stepped into the station, alien voices echoed down the wide hallways. Claire had seen many species in her work, but these cubs, small, furry, and almost human in posture, looked fragile, terrified, and angry all at once. The cubs' eyes widened when they saw her and Buddy. They backed away, squeaking and chattering in a language Claire could not understand. She knelt down slowly, careful not to seem threatening. Buddy hopped from her shoulder and padded toward the nearest cub. Surprisingly, it stayed still, sniffing the cat with curiosity. "It's okay," Claire said softly. "We're not going to hurt you." She kept her voice low and calm. The cub glanced up at her, ears flicking nervously. The cub's fur was matted and its small paw had a deep scratch. Claire knew it needed help, but the cub did not trust anyone yet. The station's alien medics hovered nearby, arms crossed, watching her closely. They muttered to each other in rapid clicks and chirps. Claire guessed they were questioning her methods. She had worked with many alien species before, but these cubs were different. They had survived pirate attacks, yet they acted more afraid of the medics than of anything else. She moved slowly to another cub, holding her hands open, showing no weapons, only calm. Buddy followed, brushing against the cub's legs. The cub yelped softly, then froze. Claire whispered, "It's going to sting a little, but I'm right here." Her words were simple, but she hoped the meaning came through. The cub's ears twitched. It stayed in place. One of the alien medics, a tall creature with green scales, hissed, "They will not accept your help." "Let us do it." Claire shook her head. She had seen the cubs panic when the alien medics approached. Fear made them lash out, and any treatment would be impossible. She needed to earn their trust first. Claire crouched down close to the floor and let Buddy sniff the injured cub again. The cub's small body trembled. Buddy purred, a deep rumble that seemed to fill the room. The cub tilted its head, ears flattening slightly. Claire held out a small vial of antiseptic. It glowed faintly in the dim light. "See," she said, "I'm not here to hurt you, it will sting just a little." She waited. The cub sniffed the liquid, then hissed softly. Claire smiled and backed off, giving it space. She whispered to Buddy, "We'll try later." Patience first. The cat flicked its tail as if agreeing. Around them, the station was in chaos. Injured cubs whined and cried, and medics scurried from one to another. Supplies were scattered, and the walls bore scorch marks from laser fire. The pirates had taken what they wanted and left, but the damage remained. Claire could hear distant alarms still blinking red. She ignored them, focusing on the cubs. Each one was a life that could be saved if only they would accept help. After a while, one cub, slightly larger than the others, crept closer to Buddy. Its fur was dark gray and its eyes were wide and cautious. Claire held her breath. She knelt very still, whispering, "It's okay, I'm here. It will hurt a little, but I won't leave you." The cub sniffed Buddy again, then glanced at Claire. A small paw reached out and touched the cat. Buddy purred louder, brushing against the cub. The cub shivered, but it stayed. Claire smiled. It was a small victory, but enough to start. She knew the other cubs were watching, learning. Fear spread through them like a shadow, but trust spread too, like sunlight breaking through clouds. One by one, the cubs edged closer, drawn by Buddy's calm presence and Claire's gentle voice. The alien medics exchanged worried glances. One hissed, "This is not how it is done." They will reject you in the end. Claire shook her head. Sometimes fear needs patience, not force, she said softly. She didn't need them to understand, only to let her work. Claire noticed the smallest cub, barely bigger than a rabbit, hiding behind a metal crate. Its fur was singed, and its leg was bent awkwardly. Claire whispered to Buddy, "This one is scared, but we can help." The cat padded forward, tail high, approaching the tiny cub. It sniffed and nuzzled the little one. The cub whimpered but did not run. Claire slowly knelt down, showing her empty hands. "It will sting a bit, but I'm here, you're safe." The cub blinked, ears twitching. Finally, after what felt like hours, the cub let Claire touch its leg. She applied antiseptic carefully, murmuring soft words. Buddy stayed close, pressing against the cub, purring. The cub's body relaxed slightly and its breathing slowed. Claire's heart lifted. The first cub was trusting her. Seeing this, the other cubs began to edge closer, curiosity overcoming fear. Claire moved from one to another, always speaking softly, always letting Buddy approach first. Some hissed and yowled, but none ran away. The wounded cubs began to allow her touch. The sting of medicine and bandages was brief, but the cubs seemed to understand that the pain was part of healing, not punishment. Hours passed. Claire barely noticed the time. She worked quietly, speaking to each cub, letting Buddy comfort them. The alien medics continued to watch, silent now. They had never seen such a reaction. A human, alone with her cat, had broken through the cub's fear. Slowly, trust was forming. By the end of the cycle, every cub had been treated in some way. Scratches were cleaned, bruises soothed, and broken limbs stabilized. The station was still scarred from the attack, but the cubs were alive and calmer. Some even nuzzled Claire, whispering words she could not understand, yet their meaning was clear. They were safe and they knew it. Claire finally leaned back against a wall, exhausted but happy. Buddy curled at her feet, purring loudly. The cubs stayed nearby, hesitant but no longer terrified. One dark gray cub tilted its head at her and squeaked. Claire smiled. "I know, Buddy, it stung, but we did it." She patted the cat gently. The cat blinked slowly, as if proud of their work. Outside the ward, the station hummed with repairs and chatter. Claire knew more challenges lay ahead. Pirates were still a threat, and the cubs' fear would return if they were not careful. But for now, there was a small victory, a spark of hope. She had earned their trust, not with force, but with patience, honesty, and a small furry companion who knew how to calm even the most frightened hearts. As the lights dimmed in the station, Claire whispered to Buddy, "We'll be ready for tomorrow." Together, the cat purred in response. Somewhere in the distance, the cubs slept safely for the first time since the raid. Their small bodies pressed close, dreaming of safety, and for the first time, trusting a human to care for them. And for Claire Dawson, that was enough to keep going the next morning. Claire Dawson woke to the soft hum of the station's repair systems. Buddy stretched beside her, paws kneading the metal floor as if testing it for comfort. Outside the ward, distant voices called, some anxious, some curious. Claire rubbed her eyes and sighed. The cubs had slept through the night, but she knew trust was fragile. One wrong move, one loud sound, and fear could return. She peeked into the ward. The cubs were awake, their eyes bright but cautious. Some peeked from behind crates or blankets, while others crawled slowly toward Buddy, drawn to his warmth. Claire smiled. "Good morning," she whispered. Buddy flicked his tail, and a tiny gray cub reached out to touch it. The cat purred, letting the cub feel safe for the first time in days. As Claire prepared the morning supplies, she heard a commotion in the hall. Alien medics argued in hurried clicks and hisses. The station's senior healer, an imposing creature named Elder Corin, stepped forward. His long, scaled arms folded across his chest. He looked at Claire with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. "Why do you let the cubs touch a human?" he demanded. His voice was sharp but not angry, more like disbelief. Claire looked up calmly. "Because fear cannot be forced away," she said softly. "They need to see that I am honest. Buddy helps them trust. It's simple." Elder Corin narrowed his eyes. Humans cause pain. Your kind is Deathworlders. They will fear you eventually. It is not your place to care for our young. Claire shook her head. Pain does not equal cruelty. I will not abandon them because it stings. She paused. They are afraid, yes, but they are alive because we are here. Isn't that what matters? Corin hissed softly and walked away, leaving Claire to her work. She ignored the whispers of the other medics. Patience had worked once. It could work again. She turned back to the cubs. One dark gray cub, the same that had trusted Buddy the day before, crawled closer. It nuzzled the cat and squeaked softly. Claire knelt and whispered, "We will go slowly today. It will sting, but I promise we will stay with you." The cub blinked, ears twitching, and stayed. The ward became a quiet rhythm of trust building. Claire approached each cub carefully, speaking softly, letting Buddy go first. She cleaned scratches, applied ointments, and stabilized bruises. Some cubs hissed or yowled, but none ran away. The small victories added up. The cubs began to associate the sting of medicine with safety, not danger. Mid-morning, a loud alarm blared from the station's control center. Claire froze. Buddy hissed, fur bristling. The cubs shrieked in panic, darting behind crates and blankets. The station had not yet fully recovered from the pirate attack, and any alert caused terror. Claire stood and raised her hands, calm and steady. "Listen to me," she said gently, walking slowly toward the cubs. "Buddy and I are here. It will be okay." She crouched low and extended her hands. Buddy padded ahead, brushing against the cubs' legs. Slowly, one by one, the cubs peeked out. The alarm was still loud, but their fear lessened slightly with Claire's calm presence. The source of the alarm soon became clear. A small repair drone had malfunctioned and crashed into the hallway. Sparks flew and smoke curled upward. Claire and Buddy watched as the cubs froze, eyes wide. She whispered, "It's okay. We are here. It will not hurt you." The words were repeated over and over. The cubs began to edge closer to Buddy, then to Claire. Trust was holding. After the drone incident, Claire knew she had to strengthen the bond further. She moved the cubs to a larger room, where light spilled through thick windows. She placed blankets on the floor and set food bowls nearby. Buddy jumped onto a small crate and purred loudly. One cub, braver than the others, crawled over to the cat, then looked up at Claire. "See," Claire said softly, "I will not leave. It will sting a little, but we stay." She picked up a small cub with a twisted paw and inspected it. It hissed but did not struggle. Claire applied a splint carefully. Buddy rubbed against its side, purring deeply. The cub relaxed, tiny muscles uncoiling. Claire whispered encouragement, and the cub looked at her with a flicker of trust. Hours passed. The cubs explored the room, some staying close to Claire, others moving slowly, testing boundaries. She spoke constantly, reminding them that she and Buddy were there. Elder Corin appeared again, silent this time, observing from a doorway. He did not speak but tilted his head, watching. The cubs were calmer than yesterday, and he could not deny it. In the afternoon, Claire heard a commotion outside the ward. Pirate scouts, remnants of the earlier attack, were spotted near the station. Alarms blared across the corridors. Claire's heart raced. She could not leave the cubs, not yet, and they could not face pirates in their current state. She held Buddy close and whispered, "We will face it together. Trust me." She opened the door cautiously, looking down the corridor. Robotic guards patrolled, and station security scrambled to intercept the scouts. Claire knew her work with the cubs could be undone by fear, so she returned to the room and closed the door. She crouched beside the cubs, placing Buddy in the center. "Listen to Buddy," she said softly. "He is calm. We are safe here." The cubs huddled together, ears flicking nervously at the distant alarms. Claire stayed with them for hours, murmuring gentle words. Slowly, the cubs began to calm again. The sting of medicine had taught them that pain could mean safety, but the fear of pirates was new and overwhelming. Claire realized she had to protect them in ways beyond healing. Later, when the alarm stopped, Claire moved the cubs again. She taught them small tricks to stay safe, using Buddy as an example. The cat climbed high to check surroundings, showing the cubs that careful observation was important. The cubs imitated cautiously, learning from Buddy's calm behavior. Claire whispered instructions, simple words repeated over and over. "Stay close. Look around. We are here." Slowly, the cubs absorbed the lessons, though fear was still present. By evening, the ward was quiet again. The cubs lay on blankets, some still near Claire, others near Buddy. She cleaned the final scrapes of the day and prepared the splints and bandages. Buddy rubbed against her legs, purring softly. She stroked the cat, then looked at the cubs. Their eyes met hers, a silent acknowledgement of trust. Claire realized that her job was only beginning. The cubs' recovery was not just physical, it was emotional. She would have to be patient, steady, and honest. They had survived pirate attacks and harsh conditions, but the galaxy's fear of humans added another layer. She could not change their past, but she could guide their present. As she settled beside Buddy and the cubs for the night, Claire whispered, "Tomorrow we learn more. It will sting sometimes, but we are together. We will not leave." Buddy purred louder, pressing against a cub that had barely moved all day. The small creature relaxed, nestling closer. The others followed, forming a circle around Claire and Buddy. Outside, the station continued repairs. Lights flickered in corridors and distant voices spoke of rebuilding and security. Inside the ward, the cubs slept safely, bodies relaxed for the first time in days. Claire watched over them, exhausted but content. She knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, trust had grown. It was small, fragile, but real. Claire closed her eyes briefly, listening to the rhythmic purring of Buddy and the soft breathing of the cubs. Somewhere deep in their hearts, the cubs understood that humans could be allies, not enemies. The sting of medicine no longer meant betrayal, it meant care. And with that simple understanding, a bond had formed that might survive even the darkest days ahead. As the night settled, Claire whispered again, "We are here, we stay. It will sting, but we stay." Buddy purred in agreement and the cubs huddled closer. For the first time, they were not just surviving, they were beginning to trust. And for Claire Dawson, that was a victory worth every moment of effort. The next morning, Claire Dawson woke to the soft hum of the station's systems. Buddy stretched, arching his back, then leapt to a crate, watching the cubs stir. Claire rubbed her eyes and looked around the ward. The cubs were awake, some moving slowly toward the blankets, some still cautious. Their eyes flicked toward her and Buddy, a mixture of curiosity and caution. Claire smiled. Progress was happening, but there was still fear to overcome. She moved quietly, gathering medical supplies. Today she planned to treat deeper injuries, ones that might sting more. The cubs would be scared, she knew, so patience and calmness were her allies. She whispered to Buddy, "We do it slowly, step by step." The cat flicked his tail, rubbing against her legs as if agreeing. The first cub she approached was the dark gray one that had trusted her earliest. Its leg had a twisted sprain that needed careful attention. Claire knelt, holding her hands open, showing nothing sharp yet. Buddy padded in front, brushing against the cub's fur. The cub hissed softly but did not run. Claire whispered, "It will sting, but I am here. Buddy is here. We will not leave." Slowly she cleaned the wound, applying a mild antiseptic. The cub yelped but stayed still, reassured by Buddy's purring and Claire's calm voice. While treating the cub, Claire noticed the other cubs watching. Some peered from behind crates, still afraid of direct contact. She smiled softly. They were learning. They saw that the sting of medicine did not mean danger, only care. She continued with her gentle words, moving to the next cub. This one had scratches across its back. It flinched when Claire approached, ears flattening. "It will hurt a little, but we stay," she whispered. Buddy brushed against its paw first. The cub hesitated, then let Claire touch it. She worked slowly, bandaging the scratches, murmuring soft encouragements. The cub's body relaxed a little and the others edged closer, watching the process. Trust was spreading among them like a quiet ripple. Mid-morning, a sudden alarm shook the station. A small fire broke out in a repair bay, smoke curling into the hallways. Claire froze. Buddy hissed, fur bristling. The cubs shrieked and scattered, diving behind crates and blankets. Claire's heart pounded. She could not leave them, not now, not ever. She crouched low, speaking in soft, steady words. "Listen to me," she said gently. "Buddy and I are here. It will be okay. We are safe in this room." She held her hands out, showing no threat. Slowly, the cubs peeked out. Buddy walked toward them, purring loudly. One by one, the cubs edged closer, drawn by the cat's calm presence and Claire's words. The fire was distant, but fear was immediate. Her steady voice and Buddy's gentle purring calmed them enough to prevent panic. Once the fire was contained by the station's security drones, Claire returned to the cubs. They stayed close, still wary but less frightened. She knew trust was fragile and must be rebuilt constantly. She moved to treat a cub with a deep scratch on its shoulder. The cub trembled, squeaking. Claire whispered, "It will sting, but we stay together." She applied the ointment carefully. Buddy brushed against the cub again, nuzzling it. The cub's body relaxed slightly, and its eyes softened, showing the faintest hint of trust. The alien medics continued to watch from the doorway, silent now. They had never seen anything like this. A human, alone with a cat, was gaining the trust of cubs who had rejected their own species. Claire worked steadily, treating injuries, cleaning wounds, and offering comfort. Her patience and honesty were slowly breaking the barriers of fear. By afternoon, Claire noticed the cubs beginning to play softly, testing their environment. A few batted at a small floating ball she had left for them, while others tried to climb crates like Buddy had shown them. She whispered instructions, "Careful, look around, stay close." The cubs imitated her words, small paws following instructions. They were learning that safety came from awareness and patience, not force. Later, a commotion echoed from the docking bay. Pirate scouts had been spotted near the station. Alarms blared and the cubs froze again, huddling behind blankets. Claire held Buddy close, whispering, "We will stay. We are safe here." The cubs listened, ears twitching, and gradually calmed. She realized that trust meant not just healing injuries but protecting them from fear itself. After the alarms quieted, Claire took a moment to observe the cubs. Some had begun to approach her and Buddy willingly, brushing their small bodies against her legs. Others still watched from a distance. She knew she could not force them. She would have to wait, show consistency, and be present. Patience was her greatest tool. One cub, smaller than the rest and covered in singed fur, hesitated at the doorway. Claire knelt, holding out her hand, showing no threat. Buddy padded forward, tail high. The cub sniffed the cat, then glanced at Claire. She whispered, "It will sting, but I am here. Buddy is here. We stay." Slowly, the cub stepped forward, letting Claire guide it onto a blanket. She cleaned its wounds carefully, murmuring gentle words. Buddy rubbed against the cub, purring deeply. The cub relaxed, finally allowing trust to take root. As evening fell, Claire prepared the ward for the night. The cubs settled around her and Buddy, some curling beside the cat, others near Claire's legs. She checked their injuries one last time and whispered reminders. "We stay. It will sting, but we are here together." The cubs seemed to understand, their breathing steady, bodies relaxed. The bond was growing stronger. Elder Corin entered the ward silently, observing. He had remained skeptical, but even he could not deny the change. The cubs were calmer, less fearful, and beginning to trust a human. He hissed softly, almost unconsciously, then left without comment. Claire did not need approval. She had seen the results in the cubs' eyes and the way they stayed close to her and Buddy. That night Claire lay on a blanket beside the cubs. Buddy curled into her lap, purring rhythmically. She whispered, "Tomorrow we will learn more, face more fears, and heal more. It will sting sometimes, but we stay together." The cubs slept nearby, safe for the first time in days, their small bodies pressed close. Some pawed at Buddy gently in their sleep, a sign of trust forming in even the smallest hearts. Claire closed her eyes, listening to the soft breathing of the cubs and the deep purr of Buddy. She felt a quiet satisfaction. Each cub's trust had to be earned, and they had taken the first steps toward believing that humans were not monsters, that the sting of medicine could mean care, not harm. Outside the ward, the station hummed with activity. Repairs continued, security scanned the perimeter, and distant alarms occasionally echoed. Inside, however, peace had begun to take root. Claire knew it would not last forever, but this night was theirs. They had survived fear, chaos, and pain together. Trust had begun to grow, slow and steady like new shoots after a storm. As the lights dimmed, Claire whispered once more, "We stay together. It will sting, but we are here." Buddy purred in agreement, and the cubs nestled closer. For Claire Dawson, this was more than healing. It was a lesson in patience, compassion, and the quiet strength that humans carried even in the face of fear. She had learned that sometimes survival was not enough. Sometimes it took courage to show care, even when the world expected fear. And for the cubs, the lesson was clear. Humans and their small, furry companions could be trusted. Pain did not always mean danger, and kindness could come in the quietest forms, even from a species known for strength and resilience. Tomorrow, Claire knew, would bring more challenges, but the bond they had formed would carry them through. With that thought, she closed her eyes, letting the soft purring of Buddy and the gentle breathing of the cubs lull her into sleep. They were safe together, and for the first time, the sting of the past did not dominate their present. It was only a memory, softened by care, trust, and the quiet courage of a human and her cat. The morning light filtered through the station windows, casting soft shadows across the ward. Claire Dawson stretched and looked around. Buddy had already jumped to his favorite crate, tail flicking as he watched the cubs stir. Today would be different. She could feel it. The cubs had begun to trust her more, but the challenges outside the ward were growing. The first cubs to wake were small and cautious. Some peeked from behind blankets, others stretched their paws toward Buddy, who purred and let them touch him. Claire smiled. Each day the bond grew stronger. Each day trust became more real. A sudden alert flashed across the ward monitors. A repair drone had malfunctioned in another part of the station, sparking fire alarms. The cubs froze, ears twitching. Claire knelt, keeping her voice calm. "Buddy and I are here," she whispered. "It will be okay. Stay close." Buddy padded in front of her, brushing against the cubs' legs. One by one, the cubs edged forward, shaking but listening. Claire led them away from the doorway, keeping her hands visible and her voice gentle. She had learned that fear could undo trust faster than anything else. Once the alarm stopped and the fire was controlled, Claire took a moment to observe the cubs. They were calmer than before, but a shadow of fear lingered. She knew she had to help them understand humans more, to teach them that humans could protect, not harm. She gathered the cubs around her on blankets, sitting low so they would not feel threatened. Buddy curled in the middle of the circle, purring softly. "Humans do not always hurt," Claire said gently. "We face danger to help others. Sometimes it stings, but we stay." The cubs listened, tilting their heads. Some pawed at Buddy, others looked directly at Claire. She smiled. Small victories. Later, Elder Corin appeared at the doorway, watching silently. Claire did not stop her work. She had learned to ignore judgment and focus on the cubs. Corin hissed softly, and one of the other medics clicked nervously. Claire spoke to them quietly. "Fear will not teach them trust," she said. "Patience will. Watch, learn, or leave. We are saving lives." Corin's gaze lingered, but he said nothing. The cubs were safe, and that was enough. Mid-morning, a new challenge appeared. Some of the larger cubs had wounds deeper than Claire first realized. She carefully examined each one. One cub had a gash across its shoulder, and another's leg was twisted badly. She whispered to Buddy, "This will sting, but we are here." The cat pressed close to the first cub, letting it feel safe. Claire worked methodically, cleaning wounds, applying antiseptics, and wrapping bandages. Some cubs yowled, some hissed, but none tried to escape. Buddy stayed close to every cub, brushing against them, purring steadily. Claire's soft words repeated over and over. "It will sting, but I am here. Buddy is here. We stay together." Slowly, the cubs learned that pain did not mean danger. While treating the cubs, a sudden loud clatter came from outside the ward. Pirates had been sighted near the station perimeter. Alarms blared, sending waves of panic through the corridors. The cubs froze, ears flattening. Claire held Buddy close. Her voice was soft but firm. "We are here, stay close. It will be okay." The cubs hesitated, but the calm presence of Buddy and Claire reassured them. They huddled together, forming a small circle. Claire knew she had to protect them not only from injury but from fear itself. Trust had to survive panic too. After the immediate danger passed, Claire moved the cubs to a safer part of the ward. She set up blankets, food, and water, letting them explore while keeping a careful watch. Buddy walked among them, demonstrating careful steps. Some cubs followed, mimicking him. Claire whispered instructions: "Look around, stay close, use your senses." They began to learn that observation and caution could keep them safe. Later in the afternoon, Elder Corin approached again. This time he did not hiss. He watched as Claire moved from cub to cub, carefully treating wounds and speaking gently. The cubs stayed close to her and Buddy, some even curling against Claire's legs. Corin tilted his head and hissed softly, almost in surprise. Claire spoke without looking at him. "Trust cannot be forced," she said. "It must be earned. You may not understand it, but the cubs do. They are learning that humans can help, not hurt." Corin's eyes flicked toward the cubs. They were calmer than he expected, some even playful. He hissed again, quieter this time, and walked away. As evening approached, Claire noticed the cubs had begun to mimic small behaviors she had taught them. One cub climbed a low crate, testing its balance like Buddy had shown. Another carefully sniffed a food bowl before touching it. Claire whispered encouragements. "Good, stay careful, we are here. It will sting sometimes, but we stay together." Buddy purred in response, brushing against the cubs and reinforcing calm. The next challenge came unexpectedly. A weak part of the station wall groaned and cracked, sending dust and small debris into the ward. The cubs panicked, scrambling behind blankets and crates. Claire stayed calm, raising her hands in reassurance. "Stay with me. Buddy is here. It will be okay." She moved slowly among them, guiding each cub back to a safe spot. Buddy padded in front, brushing against them, purring steadily. One by one, the cubs relaxed. They were learning that danger did not always mean harm, that humans and small companions could offer safety even in frightening moments. Once the dust settled, Claire took a moment to care for the cubs' emotional state. She whispered soft words, repeated her promises, and let Buddy nuzzle each one. The cubs slowly settled, curling around blankets and each other. For a moment, peace returned. Night fell and Claire prepared the ward for rest. She checked each cub carefully, ensuring bandages were secure and wounds clean. Buddy curled at her feet, purring deeply. She whispered once more, "We are here. It will sting, but we stay. You are safe." The cubs responded in small gestures, soft pawing, leaning into Buddy, closing eyes in trust. As she lay down beside them, Claire thought about the lessons of the day. Trust was fragile, yet it could grow with patience, honesty, and small acts of care. Fear was strong, but so was the bond forming between human, cat, and cubs. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, she knew, but they had taken a step forward together. Outside the ward, the station continued to hum. Repairs were ongoing and security patrolled the corridors. Inside, the cubs slept safely, bodies close to each other, some curled beside Buddy, others near Claire's legs. Their breathing was steady, a sign that trust was holding even in the quiet darkness. Claire closed her eyes briefly, listening to the purring of Buddy and the soft breaths of the cubs. She felt satisfaction. Today had been harder than yesterday, but they had survived fear, panic, and the sting of deeper wounds. The cubs were beginning to see humans not as monsters, but as protectors who could face danger and still care. As night deepened, Claire whispered one last time, "We stay together. It will sting sometimes, but we are here." Buddy purred louder, pressing against a cub that had barely moved all day. The small creature relaxed, nestling closer. The other cubs followed, forming a circle around Claire and Buddy. For the first time, they were not only safe, they were learning to trust, even in a world that had been cruel to them. Claire drifted into sleep, exhausted but content. Outside, the station hummed, distant alarms were quiet, and the cubs rested. They had survived another day, and trust had grown stronger. She knew tomorrow would bring more fear, more pain, and more tests, but together they would face it. She and Buddy, the small protector cat, and the cubs who had begun to understand the meaning of courage, patience, and care. And in the quiet of the ward, with the soft glow of station lights and the gentle purring of Buddy, Claire realized that their small victories, over fear, pain, and distrust, were the beginnings of something much larger. Morning came slowly to the frontier station. Claire Dawson awoke to the hum of the systems and the soft stretching of Buddy on his crate. Today, she sensed, would be the hardest day yet. The cubs were calmer than before, but she knew that trust could be tested. She could feel tension in the ward, a quiet warning of what was to come. The first cubs to stir were small and cautious. Some crawled to Buddy, who purred and brushed against them. Claire moved quietly, preparing supplies. Today she would face injuries that were more serious than ever, and the cubs' fear of humans might be challenged again. She whispered to Buddy, "We stay together, step by step." The cat flicked his tail in response, as if agreeing. Before she could begin, the ward alarms blared. Pirates had returned, more numerous than before, surrounding parts of the station. Their distant shouts and weapons fire made the cubs freeze in terror. Claire knelt low, holding her hands open. Her voice was calm, firm, and gentle. "Stay close to me. Buddy is here. We are safe in this room." She motioned to the cubs, showing them that she and Buddy would not leave. The cubs huddled together, ears flat but bodies trusting enough to follow her. The room shook slightly as small debris fell from damaged walls, but Claire did not flinch. Buddy stood between her and the cubs, tail high, purring steadily. The first injured cub was a small gray one with a deep gash across its leg. It whimpered and tried to back away. Claire crouched slowly, speaking softly, "It will sting, but we stay together. Buddy is here." The cub hesitated, sniffing Buddy's fur. Slowly, it allowed Claire to examine the wound. She applied antiseptic carefully, murmuring soft encouragement. The cub yelped as the sting hit, but Claire held it gently. Buddy pressed close, purring in reassurance. The cub relaxed, eyes blinking at her with newfound trust. While treating that cub, another called out softly in its language, a sound Claire had begun to recognize as asking for help. She moved to it quickly. Its shoulder was badly bruised. Claire whispered, "It will hurt, but we stay. Buddy is here." The cub shivered but stayed still, following her instructions. She cleaned the wound, carefully wrapped bandages, and spoke gentle words. Buddy rubbed against the cub, calming its fears. Outside the ward, pirate fire shook the station. Alarms screamed and distant explosions rattled the walls. The cubs froze, but Claire remained calm. She knew fear could undo everything. She crouched low, letting Buddy patrol in front, and whispered continuously, "Stay with me. We are safe here. It will sting, but we stay." Slowly, the cubs moved, following her lead. They learned that staying close and trusting her made danger less frightening. Buddy's calm presence was a bridge between human and alien, a constant reminder that someone was here to protect them. Midday, the pirates broke into a nearby corridor. The ward shook with vibrations from weapons fire. Some cubs yowled, some huddled behind blankets, ears flat. Claire realized that survival was no longer just about treating wounds. It was about teaching courage. She spoke to the cubs in simple, steady words. Fear is strong, but we are stronger together. Stay close, trust Buddy, trust me. She moved among them, keeping hands visible, letting Buddy go first. One by one, the cubs followed, some stumbling but all staying within reach. The sound of gunfire and alarms was sharp, but their fear was softened by trust. Claire reached the cub with the twisted leg. It had become more swollen and walking was nearly impossible. She whispered, "It will sting, but we will help." Buddy pressed close to the cub, letting it feel safe. Claire worked carefully, splinting the leg, speaking soft words the whole time. The cub whimpered but did not fight. The sting was brief, but the cub's trust in Claire and Buddy held firm. As the ward shook from a nearby explosion, one of the larger cubs panicked, scrambling toward a window. Claire moved quickly but gently, kneeling low and speaking softly. "Stay. It will sting, but we are here. Buddy is here. We will not leave you." The cub froze, then looked at Buddy, pressed close, and slowly returned to Claire. The lesson was clear. Even in chaos, trust could survive if nurtured carefully. Hours passed. Claire treated wounds, soothed fears, and moved from cub to cub. Buddy stayed constantly, brushing against them, purring steadily. The cubs had begun to play softly despite the danger, mimicking careful movements she had taught. Some climbed crates, others sniffed cautiously, all learning observation, patience, and trust. By late afternoon, the station security had repelled most of the pirates. Quiet returned, though distant alarms still sounded. Claire looked at the cubs. They were exhausted but calmer than she had ever seen. Their eyes, once wide with fear, now reflected something new: trust, courage, and a flicker of hope. Elder Corin appeared in the doorway, silent this time. He watched the cubs curl around Claire and Buddy, some leaning against her legs, some pressing against the cat. He hissed quietly, a sound of disbelief rather than anger. Claire did not look at him, only continued her work. She had learned long ago that approval was not necessary, results mattered. As night fell, Claire prepared the ward for rest. She checked each cub's wounds, cleaned bandages, and whispered reassurance. Buddy curled into her lap, purring steadily. The cubs huddled close, forming a protective circle around their small guardian and her cat. "We are here." "It will sting, but we stay together," Claire whispered softly. The cubs responded in gestures, paws touching Buddy, leaning against her legs, soft nuzzles. Trust had been fully earned. They were no longer just surviving, they were learning courage, patience, and care. In the quiet moments, Claire reflected. The pirates, the station's dangers, and the cubs' fear had tested her patience and skill. Yet each challenge had been met with calm, honesty, and steady care. Buddy had been more than a companion, he was a bridge, a symbol of safety and trust. The cubs had learned that humans could be protectors, not monsters. As she lay down for the night, the cubs sleeping around her, Claire whispered one last time, "We stay. It will sting, but we are here together." Buddy purred loudly in agreement, pressing against a cub that had been the most frightened. The small creature relaxed, nestling closer. The others followed, forming a circle of trust and warmth. Outside the ward, the station hummed with repairs and security patrols. Inside, a new lesson had taken root. Courage did not mean absence of fear. It meant acting despite fear. The cubs had learned to trust humans, to see the sting of medicine not as pain but as care, and to understand that protection could come in unexpected forms. Claire closed her eyes, exhausted but satisfied. She had faced fire, fear, and pain, and the cubs had followed her. Together they had survived. Together they had learned trust. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but the bond they had formed would carry them forward. In the quiet of the night, with Buddy purring and the cubs breathing softly around her, Claire realized something profound. The galaxy had feared humans because of their strength, but here, in this small ward, humans were strong in a different way. Not in the ability to fight, but in the ability to care, to endure, and to earn trust even from the most frightened hearts. And for the cubs, That lesson would stay with them forever. The sting of medicine, the presence of a small purring cat, and the calm, steady voice of Claire Dawson had shown them that survival was not enough. Courage, trust, and care were what mattered most. As the station lights dimmed, Claire whispered once more, "We are here. It will sting, but we stay together." Buddy purred louder, the cubs huddled closer, and for the first time in a long while the ward was filled with peace. Fear had not won, trust had, and together human, cat, and cubs were ready for whatever came next. The galaxy might still fear humans, but here, in this ward, humans were a symbol of hope.